You're listening to Crystal and Emily on Love Your Shelf, the best librarian podcast in the extensive and highly competitive field of librarian podcasts. Hello.
Hello.
It's Friday again.
Woo woo.
And this is a big Friday because we are kicking off summer reading.
Oh my goodness.
For those of you who don't know, although most of you probably do, summer is the big time for libraries, public libraries.
Oh yeah.
Well, any time that everybody else is on vacation, that's when it's our big time.
We're buckling down.
Our time to shine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's when everybody has time to do fun stuff.
Yep.
And they also want to keep their kids engaged in reading. And so that's where we come in.
Yeah.
So tomorrow is our big kickoff and party. And then it's just hold on to your hat until August.
It'll be here before we know it.
Yeah. So if we sound bedraggled after today,
Forgive us.
yes, we're just worn to the bone,
Forgive your sleepy librarians.
especially on a Friday afternoon.
Oh
But
my gosh, yeah.
no, it's a lot of fun. So.
Yeah.
And we're very glad to be getting back in person and doing our regularly scheduled programs.
Yes. Yeah.
So, that being said, we're not going to have a marathon podcast today. It's probably going to be held pretty short because we have an event tonight, actually the pre-kickoff event, Bad Art Night. So
Yeah, the legendary Bad Art Night.
yes. We love it. We love the people that come and love it, and it's always a lot of fun.
There was a kid who was in the children's section yesterday, and I don't know, he's maybe 10 years old, and he saw all of the supplies sitting out and asked what it was for. And I said, we're having a program tomorrow. It's called Bad Art Night. And I was then he did not get it. I was trying to explain you're trying to make something, and I was like, it's not about making it, purposely bad or good. It's just the creative process. And he just kind of blankly stared back
Probably
at me.
because kids are kind of just do that mostly.
Exactly. I know,
It's
that's
adults.
what I thought about.
Adults
Yes.
need the free reign to
Exactly.
not try to make it pretty
Yes.
and good.
Yes.
And just have fun with it.
Yep.
So that's usually what we get. We
Yep.
get lots of funny stuff. So we're looking forward to that, but we are going to have to speed up the podcast time today. So in fact, because we've been busy, I haven't read that many things. And the stuff that I have read has been pretty fast-paced
Nice.
books and
Yep.
short books. So we'll kind of set the tone with that today. And the first one I want to mention is The Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix. I've never read him before, but he also has another book that I will mention later that I just started. Mm-hmm. And it's a kind of a unique tone. So I've talked about the final girl before in horror movies. The other book that I've read that is about a final girl, and there's like this. It's not just from these two books, obviously. This is something
Right.
that other people talk about. That there is sort of a canon of things that make up the final girls, and so and they draw really heavily from late 70s through the early 90s horror slasher type movies. Like your Halloween and
I
all of that
immediately
stuff.
think Freddy Krueger.
Right.
Yeah.
And so all of those, there's always like one, good girl who sticks it out at the end, kills the bad guy, but then the trope is that he comes back or somebody else comes back in his place or whatever. And so by the time you get to the 90s and you've got Scream, which is a parody of all of those, then, it starts to kind of break down a little bit. You don't have that as much.
Right.
But, so in this book, it begins with an actual support group for final girls from the 70s and 80s.
Oh my gosh.
And now they're like middle-aged.
I love this.
They all have different ways that they've dealt with their trauma or not dealt with their trauma.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
And some of them, they actually, so the way that the book sets it up is that all of these like horror movies, like, Texas Chainsaw Massacre and stuff, that they're actually based on these women's real lives, and then these horror movies
Right.
sort of took off on those, and some of them were able to benefit from their stories being remade, some of them weren't, but they're all in this support group.
Oh my gosh, what an idea.
It's-
I love this idea.
Yeah, it's very funny, and if you're into movies, if you're into pop culture, it's going to be right up your alley, because it's just
Cool.
hitting on all of those things. And it has this sort of tongue-in-cheek tone, but then it picks up pace, and it's like one of them, and this is not giving anything away,
Sure.
it happens really early.
Sure.
One of them gets killed.
Ooh.
And so they're all like the unkillable, right? They're the ones who keep coming back
Oh
over and
my
over.
gosh.
And so the instant that they get the news, they're in the support group when they get the news that one of them is missing, they scatter and they all deal with their, like, you know,
Oh my goodness.
how they're going to handle
And
this
how
in
many
different ways.
girls did you say?
I want 6.
Okay, cool.
And so, and they're women at this point. So there's also this,
yes.
you know, play on, it actually takes into consideration and questions a lot of how real women would react in these situations, and like the psychological aspects of it, which is never dealt with in those movies.
Oh, yeah. It's like, good, good day.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
end.
Yeah. Anyway, so it ultimately, as it goes through all of this, it calls into question this ease with which women are fed into this entertainment murder machine.
Right.
And we don't ever in movies get the like real internal monologue of the final girl. And so this whole book is told from the first person perspective of one of them.
Cool.
And so you really get like her take on everything and how, you know, like actually living through something like that.
Right.
Where you know, all of your friends are murdered.
Yes.
And then
Well-
you have to kill somebody at the end of it. But then it's like, okay, how do you go on with your life?
It makes me think of any superhero movie when the city is destroyed. And I'm constantly thinking, there were people in that building. So, yeah, I feel like, you know, with something like that, the idea would be like, how does the city of New York cope after...
Right, after it's leveled.
After, the Avengers have torn your city apart.
Exactly. And so you get all of this like fear and doubt and misgivings and guilt, you know, there's survivor guilt. And
Yes.
so it takes a funny and like, you know, quirky look at this as a concept, but then it really delves into why is society doing this? Why is this okay to have women just being the fodder for these killers?
Oh
and
my gosh. This
and
is
so-
like everything I love put together. I just...
and it's a really fast paced, like
Cool.
it jumps right into the action and you would just hold on until the end of it.
Oh my gosh. I might have to snatch it.
Yes, you
That
should.
sounds great.
So here's a quote. I think, I'm every girl who's ever run from a man with a weapon, who's ever run through a space she thought was safe. And so it really, you know,
Yeah.
stops you short and says, hey, wait, you know, why is this something that we find amusing
Yes.
or, you know, just like popcorn entertainment?
Yes.
It also really criticizes horror fans, especially male ones, you know, that that just consume all of this stuff.
Right.
And even true crime fans, it kind of...
Yes,
because
I-
they're putting this in the context that it's supposed to be like true crime.
Yes.
And that people, you know, collect items from real murders
Right.
and crazy
no,
stuff.
it's something I've weirdly been thinking about a lot. I don't know what sparked it, but that's another podcast.
Yes. So so after I read that, I was like, okay, what else does this guy have? And so the recent one is so the Final Girl support group is the newest, but he just had one that came out like a year ago.
Okay.
Called the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires.
Love his titles.
Right? And so this one it's again, it kind of reminds me tone-wise of Charlaine Harris, which is, although he's a little more a little more humorous, I think.
Okay.
But just the kind of like, you know, there's the Southern aspect of it, but then there's also this, you know, kind of, I think all like Southern fantasy is kind of wrapped up in this, like, Southerners are quirky and funny and weird, and, you know, and so you can't take it too seriously or make it too black dark, even though a lot of it
it's very oh how cute. Yeah
exactly. And so in this one, it's the main character is a like suburban mom who's moved to this southern town and gets like invited to join a book club, or she seeks out a book club because she wants to fit in, and she's tired, like she wants to hang out with adults because she's, you know, all she does is hang out with her kids.
Right.
And but then she doesn't have time to read the first book. And so at the beginning she's like, which is, I can't think of what it is. It's very highfalutin that they're only reading like the world's classics, the greatest classics.
Oh gosh.
So she doesn't get to read it.
Right.
And she goes, and she's been chosen since she's new to be the leader of the discussion.
Why would
It's
you do
mean.
that?
It's mean.
It's so rude.
And so, but the woman who runs this book club is a mean lady. So she just, she gets there and it becomes pretty clear that she has not read this book.
Oh my gosh, this is such a stressful situation.
I know. I almost put it down. I said, I cannot.
I can feel like my own face growing hot in this situation.
It's a nightmare. And so, but as she's kind of saying these really vague things, all the other women, except for the one leader lady, they're all nodding very vigorously, and it comes out none of them read the book because it's this terrible book.
Oh my gosh.
It's not terrible, but it's
something
one of
that
these,
everyone...
it's a tome.
Yes,
that, you know, you just, if you don't have the time, you know.
Yes, yeah.
And so they all, like, as they leave this, you know, failure of a book club party, some of them, like, get together, and one of them says, here, I've got the book that we need to read, and it's a trashy, you know,
there we go,
romance. Yeah. Anyway, so I have not finished that one, but
oh my gosh, but I like where it's going. I think that's cool.
Yeah. It's in, like I said, I was kind of in the mood for not heavy and something I could read quickly because I didn't have a lot of time. So both of those totally worth it. And then another one that I think is just coming out this year or soon, and I get drawn to these books. It's like they're made for book lovers, librarians, whatever. The Department of Rare Books and Special Collections by Eva Jurczyk.
Oh my gosh.
And it's just like the really popular ones lately have been The Invisible Library and The Giver of Stars, and you know, these books that are they're just I don't know, they're pandering to bookstore junkies, right?
Right.
And so I'll read it. I don't know how good it's going to be, but so far it seems pretty interesting. Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah. I wasn't as pulled into the story as I was for the others, but I will give it a chance.
Cool.
Mostly because I know everybody else I know is going to read this book sometime this year.
Yeah,
you know?
You don't want to be like the woman in the book club.
No, I was that woman for a little while with the Invisible Library, and I was like, okay, no, I got to get into it.
I felt like Into the Beautiful North when we did NEA. It took me a long time. It was like toward the end of the big read that I finally finished it, so I felt like I was kind of doing that the whole month of October.
Oh, you know, in the first page, remember that's the best part. The very
that's my favorite.
It's my favorite quote is the first sentence. We all learn how to get through those times for sure. So that's pretty much what I've been reading. But something, and I do this all the time, I make notes when I'm reading, and something about what I was reading reminded me of the book Watchers by Dean Koontz, which is from 30-something years ago, I think. It's a really good book.
Yeah.
And it got me hooked on, it was the first book I'd read by Dean Koontz, and I was a teenager. Got me hooked on Dean Koontz until I was in college when I just couldn't handle the darkness anymore.
Yeah. Good call.
And there's a movie and a sequel.
Cool.
And it is, if I describe the plot to you, you're going to be like, no. because it sounds like a
Why?
cheesy
Oh.
80s plot, you know, it just, but the writing,
You know I'll eat it up, though.
the writing and the characters, like the character, the main character and his dog, it turns out, just steal the show, and you are pulling for them so hard, and it's like a you know, Benji level, or what's the Old Yeller, but set in a horror movie.
Oh my
you know,
goodness.
where you've got this like super intelligent golden lab or retriever, and this guy finds this dog, and then they bond, and then wacky hijinks. I don't want to say ensue, but wacky hijinks makes it sound funny. It's not. It's
Right.
like crazy
Crazy hijinks.
government
Creepy hijinks.
genetically modified hijinks.
Oh, that kind of hijinks.
So, and I vaguely recall, maybe I was writing this down so that I'll go back and watch these. If that's the case, I'll explain later why
Okay.
I went into this. But
Excellent.
but there is a movie, and I vaguely recall seeing it, but I have vivid like sensory impressions of when I read it,
Right.
and I
okay.
read it several times. I'm pretty sure, and so but sadly for me, no other Dean Koontz book ever reached that, and so that was my first one, and really the only one.
Okay.
And I read a lot of other ones, but mostly like in the 90s. And
Yeah.
haven't kept up with them after that. But if any of you are Watchers fans out there, I want to know about it because it's really good. So then I kind of got hooked on the I don't know if it's horror or I've been going down this road a lot lately. I
Is
don't
it
know.
getting ready for summer reading? Are you
Is this my cry for help?
Are you okay?
Nobody's reaching out to help
I was
me.
going to say I should have been paying attention.
But no, actually, it was, I don't know, something Amazon recommended to me. So I said, sure, Amazon, you know me better than anybody.
Amazon's like, we know you're dark.
Yeah, I was like, this is all you're getting from us from now on. Nothing else exists. But there's a new series. All the episodes, 10 episodes, are on Amazon. It's called Panic.
Okay.
And it's based on a YA book from a couple of years ago by Lauren Oliver. And in the show, it's set in this town called Carp, Texas.
Cute.
Yeah. And so after I started, I watched like half of the first episode, and when I saw that it was based on a book, I picked up the book and started reading it.
Yeah.
And so there's some inexplicable changes to it. And I always wonder...
The book versus the show.
Yeah, based on... I always wonder why those particular choices are made. And I understand, you know, sometimes there's too many characters in a book or something.
Yes. Sometimes it's clear. Other times, I'm just like, someone thought this was some creative genius idea.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, for example, in the first episode, they're in Carp, Texas. It's supposed to be, it's a fictional small town. But I'm noticing really quickly, none of them sound like they have a Texas accent.
Oh.
And so, I just gave me pause because this one girl sounded like really East Coast, and they're supposed to have been in this small town for their whole lives. And I'm sorry, but I'm from a small town in
too.
Texas,
Yep.
and I know how they sound.
Garrison, what's up?
So it made me stop the show
Sure.
halfway through the first episode, and I read the book, and in the book, it's Carp, New York. It's a small town, but it's in New York. And so then I thought, okay, if you're going to make this whole change, who knows why, to make it in Texas, but then none of them sound like that, why did you make that choice?
Right. Well, I don't know. Is it like trying to make it more glamorous in some way? Like, I mean, I know they're not like in New York City, but just, I don't know. Like, is East Coast more
worldly or something? in a small
yeah.
town? I don't know. It didn't otherwise seem...
Yeah. Because if that's the case, that bugs me.
Yeah.
Because I do love a small town setting. I don't know why I immediately thought of The Leftovers. Because that's a small town, they go to anyway.
It's a small town.
Small town.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So I don't know why they made that choice. And there were some other characters that are not in the book, or that are in the book that are not in the show, which I get because there are a lot.
Yeah.
And so the conceit is that in this small town, the graduating seniors every year after they graduate from high school, they have the option. They're not forced or anything, but they have to play this game called Panic.
Okay, I watched the trailer for this. Okay, it's just, I'm terrible with remembering titles. I do this all the time with
you. So do I. I can never remember the names of anything. That's why I have to write it down.
Yeah.
And so this game is kind of like, people have made the comparison to Hunger Games. It's not like that. It's that these kids, like through their high school career, they are charged by $1 a day, and then all of this money goes into one big pot, and then they all fight, or they have the option to. They all play this game to get that money. Okay. And so in this case, it's $50,000. And so, we're talking about some small town kids that otherwise would never leave their small town.
Sure.
And so they all have different reasons for wanting to play, and I think in the show, 23 of them decide that they're going to do it. And
are you penalized if you don't participate, or it's just a choice?
It's just a choice.
Do you want? What will you do for this money?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so there's like this one big night where it's like, okay, if you want to do it, you have to come. You jump off this cliff into a lake, and
that's their kickoff.
That's your kickoff. Yeah. Little did you know, that's what we had planned for all the kids tomorrow. You think it's a bounce house.
Yeah, no. There's a cliff involved. No, there's not.
No, definitely not. Not jumping off the roof or anything else. But if there was $50,000 involved,
I might jump off the roof.
People are going to worry about us after this.
I know, my gosh.
We're really
spiraling.
fine. We're fine. We're fine. Don't worry. But
I've said that so many times.
I'm also not convincing. The harder I try, the worse it gets.
All right, continue. Sorry.
So anyway, so it starts out, and I'm like I said, I watched the first half of it, and I thought, oh, okay, I don't know about this. Let me look at this book. And the book at least made me want to, look at the show again.
Cool.
And as it goes on, it turns into a mystery because they don't know who the judges are of this game. They don't know who is that. Yeah. And so the tone of it also changes. At first it comes across as, a little bit like cornball teen movie.
Sure. Yeah, that was
extra teen drama or whatever. And, I'm not about I can't get worked up about teen drama. No. I can about, like, I don't know, jumping off a cliff for $50,000.
Right.
I can get myself in that mindset.
But yeah, no, real teen problems are not.
No. Not interested. Mm-hmm. But it does, it changes, and things do become more mysterious, and it's not the best thing I've ever watched, but I watched the whole 10 episodes, and I would recommend it, especially for people who, have maybe picked up some of those other, if you're, of course, from my era, like Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Right,
kind of,
yeah, but no, cool.
It's kind of that, it's not sci-fi in that way. It's more like grounded in reality, but still.
Well, I wasn't sure, based on the trailer, I wasn't sure. I was wondering if it was a little too teenagery, I guess. Mm-hmm. And so, but hey, I'm not against that if it's entertaining. So I'm glad to hear you say that.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's like the parents level too. So there's the other adults in town. It's not only about the kids.
Yeah. Cool.
So there's that. And then I watched a really great short limited series on Netflix documentary called High on the Hog, How African American Cuisine Transformed America. It is so well done, and it starts from the earliest, slaves brought into this country and the culture that they brought with them, and then the person who is the I don't know, the presenter of the show. He's a food writer as well, and he goes to these places like North Carolina, ends up in Texas, and talks about Juneteenth. And
I think my sister's boyfriend was watching this. I was visiting them last week, and I think he had it on. It looked really cool.
it is really, really, really good.
Yeah.
I can't exclaim enough over it.
Cool.
It's based on a book it's also called High on the Hog, but the subtitle is different, by Jessica B. Harris. And in each place that he goes, the presenter goes, Stephen Satterwhite is his name. He meets with people who are like either maintaining or developing the culture that especially related to food in that region or whatever.
Yeah.
So in the Carolinas, he talks to chefs who are like keeping alive the Gullah tradition. And then he goes to Philadelphia, where there were the cooks for like George Washington and other early leaders.
Wow,
they would take their enslaved people to France and have them train as chefs there, and then bring them back. And they're very, highly valued, but then it also, I mean, the stories are heartbreaking, obviously.
Gosh.
And but then it also shows how those chefs sort of not just created a name for themselves, but had a huge impact on the culture until today. Like, some of them were the very first caterers in like that as a profession, anyway, so there are so many interesting stories. And then there's the final episode is in Texas, and it's about Juneteenth and when the enslaved people here were finally heard about the end of the war, and they were freed. And so he goes, the presenter goes with some African American cowboys who were some of the earliest cowboys, but we don't hear that story. And rodeo riders and stuff like that, and learns how like their cooking traditions, and it was just so well done all the way around. It brings in history to contemporary issues, and how you view history through those lenses. And anyway,
well, and even just small bits that I saw, the host guy just seemed so personable, and just like he was able to make a connection with anyone.
Yes,
because I saw like a few different segments and or just like pieces, and
he really makes it.
I was really impressed.
He's very you're not just interested by these people, but you can see he's like transformed
drinking
by
it in. Yes, totally.
Yeah, and it's something that you could watch in a weekend easily. I think there's somewhere between 5 and 6 episodes.
Okay.
But I couldn't tell you because I watched them all.
Yeah, it was one long movie.
It was one long
as far as you were
me.
concerned.
Yeah, but love it. And then I'll wrap up with a couple of podcasts.
Cool.
So we've talked before, a while back, about Radio Rental.
Yes.
And it's going to return soon.
Oh my gosh. Nick was just talking about that the other day.
Yes. So yesterday, actually, I had, it popped up on my, whatever. But it was just an introduction.
Oh my gosh.
And it was actually an introduction to a revamp of Dark Air with Terry Carnation, which is another former podcast with Rainn Wilson playing that character.
That's funny.
And so he's playing this fictional late night talk show radio host who takes calls about weird stuff. And so there's just like a 15-minute intro, but that old podcast is being revamped.
Okay.
And then he also mentioned that he was on the Radio Rental podcast space because that's coming back soon too.
Did they say when?
They did not say when. But I will be waiting for every single day.
Me too. Yeah, Nick just said the other day, man, I wonder when Radio Rental's going to be back.
Yes.
So that's really good to know.
I am very excited.
Yeah.
If you haven't listened to us talk about it or you haven't listened to it yourself, go check it out. It is really hard to explain.
I was going to say fine storytelling.
Yes.
I will say that.
Yes.
Like, it is, you know, take it however you want, but it's creepy. But not like terrifying. I don't know.
Some of them were more unsettling than others.
Right. Yes, definitely. There's some paranormal stuff. There's, yeah.
And it's just regular people telling the story that they have.
Yes.
And I'll have to say that that the Rainn Wilson character
Yeah.
is campy.
Yeah.
And he's very cheesy.
I usually skipped past him when he would, I mean, no offense, love Rainn Wilson, but.
Yeah. He plays this particular character that sort of introduces each of the episodes. Whatever you like.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah.
Yeah. So don't start listening to this and be like, I cannot believe they recommended
Crystal
this.
and Emily love this.
And then we get hate mail and all of this stuff. He's not that great, but.
Yes, but Radio Rental is great.
Yes. So super excited about that. And then, so I listened to the intro and it was really funny.
Oh my gosh.
So he takes this call, you know, quote unquote call from this guy who calls in and says that he's like, I have a female spirit, I think, that's living in my house. And so real Rainn Wilson's trying to draw him out. It's like, okay, so what makes you think that you have the spirit or whatever? He says, well, the other day I was eating cereal and I poured a second bowl and I heard a sigh. It's like, Rainn Wilson's like, okay, so you think a spirit? And he's like, well, yeah. And then another day I was having a third beer and I hear, really? And so
Female spirit.
so this female spirit is just subtly judging him.
Yeah.
For
Oh my gosh.
everything.
Isn't that the? Oh my gosh. What a terrible / hilarious idea of not only having a ghost,
Yes.
but a judgmental ghost.
Well, yeah, it only interacts with you if they're
Yeah.
like
They're like,
mad at
really?
your
You're
choices.
eating Cheetos? Really? That is hilarious.
And so it goes on it builds and gets, you know, wackier from there. But that,
Yeah.
I cracked up by
love that.
myself.
The ghost is like, aren't you going to get a job?
And so Rainn Wilson's character, Terry Carnation, is telling him, well, you know, I mean, what if you like, you know, exercise more or something, you know, like maybe that's how you
No.
get rid of it.
Definitely not. Out of the question.
It's like, you get light beer. Maybe that's all she wants.
That's hilarious.
Oh, anyway.
The
So,
sigh.
yeah. So I'm going to go back and listen to, I hadn't listened to all of the Dark Airs. So I'm going to go back and pick those up while I'm waiting for
Yeah,
Radio
no, I
Rental.
might have to do that.
And then the last podcast I'll mention is a newish one called, it's out by, or it's put out by IMDb.
Oh, okay.
And it's called Movies That Changed My Life. It's hosted by Ian DeBorja.
Fun.
And it's episodes with celebrities of various ilks that
I love this. I already love it.
And then they choose like 2 or 3 films that changed their life, and then they talk about them. And they're short episodes, like half an hour, really good. I listened to one with Joel Kinnaman from the
Is that the soup guy? He had the show.
no
Community,
no,
not the
that's
community. Is
no,
his
that's
name Joel though?
It's Joel. Yes.
Okay. Oops.
No, Joel Kinnaman is oh my gosh, here we go again. We can't remember. The show that I had you watch that has 4 seasons. It's with,
Oh my gosh. Which show?
Sorry,
which
you would
show?
think that I would do my
Pulling out IMDb's.
yeah. It's just a little
Joel Kinnaman. Okay.
yes.
Oh, The
You know,
Killing.
The Killing. I never can
my
remember the name of
gosh,
that.
I love him.
It's one of my favorite shows, but it's such a generic title.
Oh my gosh,
that
it
I
is.
never can
I mean,
remember.
there are so many versions of
I was
that.
like the
Missing. There, yeah, no.
Yeah.
So it could be anything. I love him. Okay. Cool.
And then other celebrities like Sarah Chalk, Ed Helms.
Okay,
and,
cool.
And like Zack Snyder, the director. So that was a good one.
Neat.
And I have only started listening to that. So there's at least a dozen or so.
Oh, nice.
There's a lot of them.
Neat.
Yeah. So that's pretty much all I have for this week.
Fun.
Yeah.
Yay. Well, I've got some stuff I'm going to take notes.
Yeah. And so we'll be back, hopefully, if we're still
survive.
kicking.
Yeah.
By this time next week. And enjoy your weekend.
Yeah. Wish us luck. Just kidding.
No, really do.
Bye.
Bye.